guys, welcome back to Quilt 101. I am Emily, and today I am going to show you how to make this adorable double-sided minky blanket. So this minky blanket finishes at 29 by 35 inches. It's the perfect baby size, but you can use the same pattern for any size minky. So the tools that you will need to make this blanket is you'll need a sewing machine, and we highly recommend a walking foot. So minky is a pretty slippery fabric, and a walking foot is just going to help pull all the layers together at the same time. You will also need either these are the Clover Wonder Clips, you guys, these are fantastic, or you'll need some long-headed sewing needles or pins. These are the flower head pins. We sell both of these on our site if you don't have any. You will also want to make sure to have polyester thread, and if you have a stretch needle for your machine, you'll also want to use that as well. So let's go ahead and get started. When you receive your kit in the mail, this is what it'll look like. It's just kind of rolled up into a cute little package. So we are just going to take the ribbon off. And you guys, as usual, our kits are completely pre-cut. Minky is notorious for shedding a lot, and we have actually shaken out the fuzz as well. So huge perk. So this is we're just using the most adorable luxe gray minky. I just thought this would be a good, just kind of gender neutral baby blanket. And you guys, it's so easy to put together. So we're just gonna start by, we're actually gonna do right sides together. We're just gonna lay out this square. Now my table's not as ideally, should be a little bit bigger, but for this it'll work. So we're just gonna lay out the minky, and then we're gonna take the other side and we're just gonna lay it right side on top. All right, and so now we're just gonna line up all the edges, making sure that it's as square as possible. And I'm just gonna start working on one side, and right sides together, I am just gonna take my favorite, these are the Wonder Clips, I just keep them in this cute little container. And I am just gonna go around lining up those edges and clip it together. So we're just gonna do this around the entire perimeter. Now, one way that I like to use to pin together minky, just to make sure that the fabric lines up nice and evenly. So you're gonna kind of work in half. So I'm gonna start by lining up the corners, and I'm gonna pin those together. Oops, oh, fabric is slippery, you gotta be careful. Okay, oh my gosh, okay. And now I am gonna go find the center, so I'm just kind of pull the fabric where it just kind of naturally meets in the middle. I'm going to clip there, and now I'm going to go with this half, and I'm going to find the middle of this and clip, and then the middle of these, and you just keep working your way down. Now, like I said earlier, minky is a very slippery fabric, and so the more clips or pins, the better. So I am actually, once I've got kind of these initial clips in place, I'm going to go through and make sure that there's a clip every 1 to 2 inches. It might seem super unnecessary right now, but I promise once you take it to the sewing machine, you will be very happy. I have roughly pinned around the entire perimeter of the blanket, and so now I'm just going to go through and make sure that I'm just going to pin even more. So I promise you, you'll be so happy that you have more pins. So I'm literally gonna pin, make sure there's a clip every 1 to 2 inches. These kits are so nice when they come pre-cut like we sell them. Minky, especially if you're not familiar with the fabric, it's a little bit more difficult. Like I said, just because it is such a slippery fabric, it does kind of come with its challenges, but we have done a lot of those for you just by pre-cutting it and by fluffing it out, and so it doesn't shed whenever it gets to you. I mean, I just opened this up and I haven't seen any shedding, which is awesome. And then because everything is pre-cut, I mean, you literally can just start pinning. You don't have to worry about any of that hassle. It is such a nice feature. Okay, so I am confident with the amount of pins that I have in to hold this together. I think it'll work out perfectly. So now we just take this over to the sewing machine, and we're just gonna make sure on one side to leave just like a 4 or 5 inch gap, and so that way we can turn it right side out. So we're just gonna take this over to the sewing machine and we are going to stitch those 2 layers together. I do want to apologize for this lighting. I have ordered lights, which I am so excited for. So that way you guys will have better lit videos in the future. Okay, so I have the blanket, and you guys, it's slippery. Like, it'll fall over the edge of your table. So you just have to be careful with that. So I am just going to put this under my sewing foot. All right, press that down. So I have, my seam allowance is pretty big. So normally you sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. With Minky, I want a little bit more room, just so in case the Minky slips, I'll make sure to catch both sides. So I am actually about, I would say 1/3 to 1/2 of an inch inside of the fabric. So I just started. I'm going to back stitch, make sure that's nice and secure. And then I am just going to, as long as you are careful whenever you clipped your quilt together, you just need to follow that edge right there with the side. I just use the side of my sewing foot to follow the edge, the raw edge of the fabric. And we are just going to keep sewing down. And then once you get to a clip or a pin or whatever you're using, you're just gonna take that off. And I'm telling you guys, this is why you're so happy, because if you pin, like if your clips are further apart, it just starts to slip and things just don't line up as well. So it's worth that extra time to just clip it super well. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but my edges right here don't line up perfectly. But the nice thing about Minky is that it is super forgiving. So I'm just gonna kind of force it in there. There might be a little bit of a crease, but once you turn this blanket out, you're not gonna notice at all. So once you get to the edge, you're just going to pivot it. And then you're just gonna continue down that same side, or that other side. Okay, so I just finished sewing along the perimeter of the blanket. I did leave about a 4-inch opening in here because we're gonna take our hand and pull it right side out. Before we do that, I just wanna make sure, I wanna go along both sides of the blanket and make sure that I stitched on both sides. I'm pretty sure there's one point in this quilt, I just need to double check, where I got a little lazy and it didn't stitch on both sides. So I am just checking that real fast. Okay, here we go. Right here, I got lazy or something. The fabric slipped and it just didn't line up. So I am just going to make sure, I'm just going to fix that to make sure that both of the sides are sewn together. All right, so let's bring the blanket back. We're going to, where we left that hole, we're going to just put our hand through and we are going to pull the whole thing right side out. It is so satisfying to do this. Oh, you can just feel that soft fabric. Oh my gosh. So dreamy. Might be a pain to work with, but all things hard in life are worth it, right? For the most part. There's definitely a reward with this at the end. Okay, I'm just gonna go through. I'm gonna push out all of the corners. And if you want, before you turn this out, you can snip the corners if you want to get it a little bit sharper. It personally doesn't bother me too much, so I'm just going to leave the corners. Okay, I think we got it. All right, and the blanket is pretty much like all together now. So we're just going to take this over to the sewing machine one more time, and we are going to top stitch along the edge. And whenever we top stitch, we just want to make sure that the fabrics, you don't want it to be like pulled over too much, you see, like that. You want to make sure that the seam is right on the end. And then you're just going to top stitch those two layers together. You do want to make sure to be very careful though whenever you go. I've got to find the opening. I keep losing it. You just want to make sure that whenever, where did that opening go? You sew together the opening that you sew that together nicely and that it folds in. So I'll just show you that whenever I'm sewing it on the machine. Okay, so I'm at my sewing machine and I have moved the needle over as far to the left as possible to just give a bigger seam stitch. And I am going to actually take my stitch length and increase it. So I'm actually increasing it. I'm at like 3.5. And so that way the stitches will kind of blend a little bit better into the minky. And so now we're just going to go slow. We're just going to try to follow the edge right here, making sure that where the two fabrics meet up, that is on the end. And we're just going to sew around the perimeter. Okay, so I've just gotten to the point in the quilt where I have the hole. This is where we turned it out. And we need to make sure that whenever we sew this up, that it catches those layers together so they stay closed. And so right now my needle is over pretty far. So I'm gonna I just cut the thread right there. And I'm just going to move my needle over. It's kind of like a 1/4 to 1/3 inch away, and we're just going to use that seam allowance to close this opening. And I'm just going to do the best I can, you guys. Minky is, like I said, is very forgiving. It's not going to turn out perfect, so just get that out of your head. And that is okay. This blanket is not meant to be perfect. It's meant to be used and loved and to be cherished and cuddled with. And those imperfections are what make it homemade and what shows that, hey, I made this myself. So don't be too hard on yourself if things are not perfect. Right now, this fur is kind of going all wonky, but we will fix that, I promise. Okay, so I have closed up this opening. I am tugging on those two seams and it's not budging. So those are perfect. So now I'm just gonna put the needle back to the same position that it was in earlier. And I'm just going to use like this same, just gonna follow that same line we were doing earlier to top stitch around the quilt. Okay, so I just finished top stitching and the blanket is now officially done. You guys, like that is how easy it is to put together. The last step, which is optional, oops, I need to cut that thread. So you can see like right here, whenever you like sew the fabrics together, some of the fur gets caught in the seam. And so, I mean, with time, most of it will come out anyways, and you can either just take your fingers and just kind of like pick it out that way. But I've also found that this is called That Purple Thing. This is on our website. It's such a nifty little tool. It's only a couple dollars. But I can use this, you can use a chopstick, and then you just kind of run it along. Let's see if I can do this so you guys can see it. I just kind of take where that fabric, the fur is kind of like stepped in the seam, and I just rub the point along there, and it just pulls it right out. And so that way you just get a fluffier edge, so it's not all tucked in there. But like I said, with time, it'll kind of like come out by itself anyways. This is just, if you want to have that nice little fluffy edges whenever you first start using it. And just like that, we are done. I love this Minky blanket so much. The size is perfect for babies. I love, this is like my go-to gift for baby showers. They come together so simple, like so quickly and easily. I love it. Now with these Minky blankets, I've had a lot of people ask like how to wash and care for them. So because Minky is made out of polyester fabric, you do need to take some precautions. So you want to make sure to never use any heat whenever you are washing and caring for this. So whenever you put it in the washer, just wash it on cold with no fabric softener, just like normal detergent. And then you can either air dry it, like to dry after you wash it, or you can put it in the dryer and just like the air setting. And you can use dryer sheets for that. So anyways, those are just some careful, or just some care instructions. And anyways, I hope you guys love this blanket so much. We hope to offer it in larger sizes very soon. But for now, you can purchase these pre-cut Minky, double-sided Minky baby blankets on our site at Quilt 101. Just want to thank you guys again for joining us, and have a great day.